Hey everyone, I'm Krista Watanabe,
And I'm Neoshia Roemer.
and this is Wires from the Deep. Welcome to Wires from the Deep, a Silo series podcast. Today is Sunday, July 19, 2026, and you're listening to episode 33, Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Today, Neoshia and I will be breaking down the third episode of Silo Season 3, It's All Good.
This episode was released on July 17th, 2026. It was written by Eric Avellino and directed by Michael Dinner.
So before we get to the breakdown, something fun. Last week, Neoshia and I got to meet in person. Woohoo!
Finally happened.
Yeah, funny happens. And we've been planning a Discord friends meetup on the Mentalist server that we're both on, and the trip finally happened. We went to New York City, and we took a picture in a Wires from the Deep shirt and stuff like that at the top of Rockefeller Center, which is Neosha thought that would be the best like silo vibe kind of
I mean, it
background.
kind of was because we got some really cool lighting in the background.
Yeah, we went at night, so we got to see the city in the background.
hmm
But and I have a funny story about because Apple TV had sent me the Pez relic, the duck. And since I already had two, I had bought one myself and Angela had given me one last season. And so I took the one that Apple sent and I gave it to Neosha. But before I did that, my son, he's 11, he had seen it and he was like, "Oh, can I eat the Pez?" And I was like, "No, I can't open it yet." And he was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "Oh, bummed." And then I got my dad to watch Silo when he came to visit this past week. And so I took the duck to show him. I was like, "Look," because when he got to the duck, I was like, "Look, I have one." And I had it in the living room. And then my son saw it and he's like, "Oh, mommy must have opened it." So he came to me like, "Can I have the candy?" And I was like, "Oh, I gave it away." He was like, "What?" So you have his candy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, I think you can get Pez candy, right?
I can't, but I just thought it was funny that he just saw it open and he assumed that, oh, the candy's somewhere around the house that I can eat now.
Yeah, I should have just given you the candy back because I'm not going to eat it. So,
It's fine. Okay, so Silo promo, Apple TV released a video called Memory, which was it was like a behind the scenes interview kind of thing, but it was actually pretty cute. I thought it was with Rebecca Ferguson and Alexandra Riley. Alexandra Riley plays Camille, but
Mhm.
basically they're asking them memory questions. And Rebecca didn't really know like the answers to her. She kept deflecting to Camille, which is very meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'd be able to remember, like, my first line. Like, what did you say? What was the first line you said on the first day? What was our first scene?
Yeah, because it was a while ago. It was
Mm-hmm.
years ago. Yeah, I don't think I would have had that good memory either.
Not at all.
All right, let's get to the episode breakdown. So Juliet is visited by the nurse again in the morning. She takes her pills and then she goes straight to the bathroom to spit them out. And what did you think about the way she like stares at Jerry? Because he's like following her. She goes to the bathroom to go spit them out, and so she gives him this look like, "What are you gonna watch me pee?"
Yeah, I mean, I think Jerry and Juliet have an interesting dynamic because last week we saw him telling her, "Hey, I will give you some space." And she immediately takes him up on that, right? And is like, "Yes, I want to walk the silo alone." Which I don't know if he intended it to be that much space, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, he did say that, but the look on his face is just kind of like, "Oh, I didn't mean that much space, but I did kind of say that I would."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly it.
But so she goes off, and then next we go to Daniel. He's attending a memorial service for one of Charlotte's squadron members, and I think later on they say that there were four pilots, so there weren't
Mhm.
that many of them. I guess three of them died. Um,
Yeah, because it was like I don't wanna say a side mission, but it wasn't the main mission.
yeah,
There was the Iran mission, and then there was something else that was happening in the mountains.
yeah. But he watches as the guy's name is Juan Alameda, and his parents speak on stage, and then he goes up to introduce himself to the dad because I guess he's a former serviceman,
Hmm.
and he introduces himself and he wants to know if he had heard anything because Helen has just told him about this switching out of the comms thing that Charlotte had been concerned about. So he wants to
Hmm.
talk to this guy, see if he has any connections, if he's heard anything about his son. And he actually does. He tells him that his son had called him just before the mission and told him about the devices being swapped out. And that he told him that his radio was older than he was.
Wow. Yeah, and so I also just wanted to add too that like I think last week we might have misspoken, and someone on the Down Deep Discord server pointed this out that it is the communication devices that were switched out, but the planes themselves were like up to date technology. But I still find this really interesting because I wonder what made them bring the comms so low tech.
Specifically the
Um,
comms, yeah.
Right, because it indicates that someone's listening, which we kind of hear later. But it also makes me think of what we've seen happen in the silo and something that we've been touching on, which is it appears some of the technology, or at least the technology that more people have access to, is this older technology that it appears the overseer has a lot of ability to, I mean, I guess oversee, that's what it does. But yeah, I mean, and I just kind of wonder, is that the lower tech communication devices, is it to make it easier to spy on people and to
Hmm.
follow what's going on?
Yeah, because he says that, because they didn't have modern tech, their stuff was encrypted. So that's how they were. So they think that there could be a recording out there on the internet. But what did you think about this? Is that like, is that how things happen? Where it's like something's unencrypted and they just figure there might be a recording randomly on the internet? Like,
Uh, I mean, in the real world, I don't think I'd make that leap automatically. But I definitely see, like, in terms of narrative and plot and setting it up for what happens
yeah,
later in the episode, that makes sense to me because it's kind of threading the needle that, yeah, it's out there somewhere. Now, I mean, having it be so low tech, I mean, it's very palpable that, like, yeah, anyone could have picked that up. Anyone could be
yeah.
recording at that frequency.
So after he talks to him, two people enter the room, and Mr. Alameda says one is the captain of the Nimitz, and he's talking to the white-haired man, the man that Charlotte saw in the metro station. And
Hmm.
he goes to talk to them, and that we're gonna have to keep a list. We're gonna have to start a list of sightings of this guy because he's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like the observer in French, and we don't even know who he
Yeah.
is yet or what his role here is to play. And I actually was wondering,
I was
um,
gonna say cigarette smoking man.
makes sense to me, right? Because it seems like he's really involved in covering up whatever is going on. And we saw in the very first episode that Charlotte saw him, took note of him on the metro, and immediately jumped off because she was
Yeah,
freaked.
super paranoid.
Yeah,
Apparently for
maybe
good
that's what I was gonna
reason.
say. Maybe it was a good reason. Maybe she needed to be paranoid.
So the nurse, we had speculated, oh, whose side is Amy on? But it turns out she's on Camille's side because she's reporting to Camille that Juliet spit out her meds, and because we had thought, oh, maybe she's with the outsiders, but no, she's with the administration.
Yeah.
But she asks, and I'm confused by this though because she asks, should I double her meds? And she's like, just keep doing what you're doing. And so I don't understand why Camille is not more concerned that she's spitting out her meds.
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, she's going to do whatever the overseer tells her.
Yeah.
And so if the overseer is saying, "Hey, don't even worry about that," she's not going to worry about that. Because it seems like the vitamin D that they're planning to put into the water, it seems like that plan is kind of plan A now.
Yeah. So down below, Shirley gets a porter note from Juliet that says, I heard you took Lucas Kyle somewhere during the rebellion. Wherever he is now, I need to find him. I was hoping you might have some idea. So she's still. Re- People have been really reacting poorly to the way Shirley's behaving
Mhm.
because they're saying that, oh, she's kind of blaming Jules and it's not Jules' fault that she's like this. But I do want to point out that Shirley has no idea that Juliet's being drugged, and she's just hurt. And some certain people deal with pain certain ways, right, differently. And I think she's just having a really hard time with what with Juliet not remembering her, because to her she has amnesia, and it's kind of like, I'm your best friend, you don't remember me. It's like a deep cut, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I see that deep cut. It just seems there's no empathy from Shirley. But then I also wonder, like, the type of environment that the silo is, I don't know that there's that much room for empathy. Because, like, I do empathize with, like, Shirley's upset and, like, what you just mentioned in terms of, like, well, wouldn't you be upset if your best friend just suddenly didn't remember you? And, like, kind of, and I think Shirley even said, like, it seems like you looked right through me. Yeah, I mean, that would be upsetting, right? But I do think there's something to be said for like the empathy, the compassion. But if it really hurts Shirley that much, I can also understand why she's wanting to stay away. So I guess my thing is it's complicated. It's
Yeah.
not, this easy black and white, Shirley is right or Shirley is wrong. It's more so that, this is a complicated relationship. Because I think something this episode really peers into and we'll get into is just sort of what is memory. Because even without memory, is the personality or is the person still the person that they are?
So to like put this in a different way though, if you think about when you have like you go through a really tough breakup with somebody,
Hmm.
and then you have like, there's like a chance that you might see this person. Some people have the similar reaction that Shirley's having. They don't want to see them at all, right? They don't
Hmm.
want to be reminded of the pain, and they go out of their way to never look at them, never be in contact with them, just because it hurts so much. So to me, that's the closest comparison I can come up with. Because like there was somebody close to me who had a really nasty divorce, and just everything they could possibly do to never see that person, just because it hurt too much. So
Hmm.
to me, her reaction is not really that out of the ordinary. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one way you can react, right? Is like, if I have to go through this pain when I see you, then I'm not going to see you. And I think that's fair. But again, I think this relationship in this particular part of the storyline does get into an important question that I think the show is asking us to make, because even without the memories, I think who Juliet is still comes through and who Shirley is still comes through, and whatever's going on between them right now is playing off of that.
yeah. So Knox comes up behind her. He doesn't have a shirt on. So they had kissed last season, right? And so I feel like it was a little up in the air whether it was going to go past that. But and in last episode, I think they kind of showed like a little bit of affection toward one another, but it kind of seems like it could have still been friends. But I think this definitely confirms they're together. So
Are they not married? Because I
no,
thought
no,
they're not married.
no. And
No.
actually, like they wouldn't be able to without permission, because people can't be in relationships unsanctioned. They have to have approval from the silo to be together.
Right, but I could have swore I saw a wedding band on one of
No.
them. No, maybe. No, maybe I'm just like crazy and didn't understand the plot line. No, that could
maybe
be it
they're
too.
maybe one of them is David Duchovnying it.
Oh yeah, wore their wedding band and was like, "Well, you guys figure it out." Um, no, I could have swore I saw Shirley wearing what looked like a wedding band, like a plain
uh,
wedding band, and I maybe I'm just wrong about that.
So he asks her what she, because like she just looked at the note and she hides it, and she says, "Oh, it's just more delays on the rebar." And that is actually something that I want to bring up later, because I'm trying to put all these things together in my mind to see what is coming up next. And I kind of see things threading together, and this rebar is part of it. Has to do
Hmm.
with Orla. uh,
Yes.
but she goes to get dressed, and the camera focuses on her right hip. It looks like a birthmark or a scar. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think that's where the birth control is. So the insinuation here, I think, is that Shirley removed hers. And I don't know why they would do that, because Shirley doesn't really seem like the type to want to have children, at least not now. But yeah, I'm perplexed by this, because they very deliberately focus on that.
They do, and I hadn't really thought about the birth control angle of this, because I do know that they definitely control who has kids, right? Like you have to get permission for that. We saw that in season 1, where we have to get permission to have children, and so you take out the birth control implant. Now, as far as Shirley, I do think it's something. I think it's taking control of your body.
Yeah.
by removing that birth control because you're basically saying this is my body and if I want this implant, I will have it. If I don't, I don't. But then I kind of question like what happens if she were to get pregnant? Like if this is what's going
Mm,
on and she's in a sexual relationship with Knox, like what happens if she does get pregnant unsanctioned? And I mean, because that's a very revolutionary act when you're in this
yeah.
kind of society that, I mean, it's essentially population control, is what it is, right? Like you have to get permission to have kids. And I didn't read the books, so I don't know anything, in terms of like what the qualifications are to do that. But like, I'm assuming like they don't approve everybody.
Well,
And
yeah,
again,
because I mean, you go by season one, and what Gloria said, she said that they want docile, like submissive people to have children, and that's definitely
Mhm.
not Shirley, right? She's a rebel.
Right. Right. They want the people who are going to create the next generation of really good citizens. Like that's how you control your population, right? You
Yeah,
don't want the rebels
they want sheep.
to right. Right. You want the people who are going to be like Sims, really, if you think about it, and like how he's raising Anthony.
Yeah. The other thing I thought too is that maybe she's not sure that it's birth control. Maybe it also has a tracker and she wants to be sure that they don't have a way of knowing where she is wherever she wherever she goes in the silo. And to me that seems like a reasonable thing to speculate about when you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, right? So
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting looking thing because I watched it a couple times and I wasn't sure if it was a birthmark or a scar.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first time I saw it, I thought it was a birthmark, and then I thought, oh wait, that's actually where Allison cut hers out. So I don't know. And then I thought it's probably a scar. So next we have Juliet showing up at the Billings' apartment looking for Paul. Kathleen tells her that he went to go check out a missing persons report, and she asked to come in. And Kathleen, she's kind of standoffish. I kind of
Yeah.
didn't expect her to be like this, but she was pretty sassy.
I did. Like, this didn't surprise me because we know that she's an outsider
Yeah.
and we know she is the one that they are actively looking for because of the wrist thing. Like, they know that there's a woman with a broken wrist walking around somewhere and they're looking for her. So it made sense
Oh,
to me.
and they think that she's lying too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
right. Okay.
like, they also have eyes on Juliet. And so it would make sense to me that Kathleen is kind of standoffish and is just like, don't come in here. Like, I don't know what you're doing here. I mean, for her own safety and for the safety of the cause.
So she asks about Patrick Kennedy, and then when Kathleen doesn't give her anything, she basically tells her, "I know you're an outsider," because she knows about her wrist and she knows that they're looking
Mhm.
for someone who like hurt her wrist in the fight when they broke into IT. But she suggests, "Oh, well, maybe if your husband knows that you're an outsider, maybe that's why he hasn't found Patrick and Lucas." So she's kind of like subtly threatening her family, right?
Mhm.
She's just been like, is this why? But Kathleen insists that Lucas is dead, and this seems to be the story that everyone is saying is that he's dead. He's dead.
Mhm.
He died in the rebellion, and no somebody mislabeled his body or something like that. And she says that Patrick knows about places to hide in the silo that no one else does, and even he couldn't find him. So she thinks he's dead. And she tells Juliet that the last she confirms for us too. Actually, she confirms that the last time that Lucas was seen was in the apartment, which is when we saw him last too, right?
Mhm.
He was in his apartment spending the last few moments of life with his mom, and then Sims burst in and held him at gunpoint, and he wanted to know what the heck he told Bernard that made him freak out, right? But that's the last time we saw him, and I don't think they show the end of that confrontation, right?
No.
Doesn't some kind of alarm go off or something?
Yeah, like they don't show us how that ends, and I think that's kind of what makes the whole like where's Lucas Kyle plot point work because we don't get an
Yeah,
actual resolution.
yeah. But she talks about how, oh, they never took you down to the down deep past the gap, right? And she talks about how there were bodies in the middle on the fans, three deep, and that the incinerator was running 24 hours a day. And so I was confused by this at first. I thought like there she was talking about like people who had suicided, but I think it's just during the rebellion there was a lot of fighting and maybe people were like going over the rails and stuff like that.
Because remember the narrative here about the rebellion is it was essentially bloodless, right? It's
Yeah.
the idea of a bloodless revolution. We did this rebellion, and everybody was so on board. It was so successful. It's the narrative that they're pushing, right? Because we saw this, I believe, with episode 2 when talking about Juliet's dad and how he was the only casualty, right? He was the only one lost because this was
Yeah.
supposed to be bloodless, and it was, other than that one person. But I do think that's not true. Like, it's part of the
Yeah.
narrative that to kind of push the rebellion narrative forward, but there was definitely more casualties than that.
Yeah, because Kathleen was in the down deep when Julia came back, right? When the rebellion was happening.
Yeah.
So she would have
Because they
seen it for herself, right?
Right, right. Because, like, they had been, I mean, not her necessarily, but Sheriff Billings had been considered an enemy, or
Yeah.
was marked as an enemy, right? Um, but I just wanna say, like, I love how Jules just kinda jumps in right here. You can see, like, her personality sharpening again
Yeah.
without the so-called vitamins that they're giving her.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I think it's been 2 days now that she hasn't taken them, and I think I don't know if I mentioned this last episode, but in the way she's talking, it sounds more like Jules because in the first episode she was very compliant and soft spoken. She was like, "The
Mhm,
people need to see me," she's just repeating whatever Camille said, and now she's like swearing again and she's sassing at
mhm.
people. She's yeah, actually we talked about it right when she was sassing at Evelyn and being snarky at
Yep.
her and stuff like that. So like and there was more of that in this episode too, like just the way that she's kind of aggressive with Kathleen. So
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's clear Kathleen doesn't wanna talk to her, but she wants something out of Kathleen, so she kinda
yeah.
just goes right in, no holds barred, like, "I know you're an outsider, talk to me."
Kathleen tells her again she thinks that Lucas is dead.
Mhm.
Then we have Kathleen or Camille reporting to the overseer that Julia is spitting out her meds and that she thinks that she's in the silo right now looking for Lucas. So she thinks if they follow her, they'll find Lucas that way. And they'll find Patrick Kennedy too. And then they won't even need to use this vitamin D to like make everybody forget. But then it tells her that she wants two improbable things when they could just use the vitamin D. And then that's proven to work. So but it tells her that the choice is still hers. So I don't know. What did you think about that?
I mean, it's a lot of pressure, right? Because now
Yeah,
the entire silo is riding on her choice. Because if she can't find Lucas and Kennedy following Juliet, this becomes a real problem for the entire silo. And so I don't know. Like, I feel like this is almost a test on Camille herself and whether or not she's willing to do what needs to
what
be
needs to
done.
be
And
done? Yeah,
yeah, and I think that comes full circle in this episode.
yeah. Oh, it gives us a interesting bit of info. It tells us that the population of the silo is 9913. So I think last season it was above 10,000. So
Mhm.
roughly around 100 people have died since like in the rebellion. So
And well, and also, I mean, the few deaths we've seen happen, but I'd also point out, like, I believe and I don't remember where we got this actually. We do know the silo population is supposed to be 10,000, right? It's not
yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
too much above that and not too much below that, right?
Yeah, so I feel like there's going to be a lot of like birth lotteries and stuff soon,
Mhm.
or if not already. So the overseer encourages her to expedite the vitamin D plus shipment because the silo is dangerously close to a safeguard, and we still don't know what this safeguard does other than what Jimmy or Solo was saying last season. He said that there's poison that comes out of a pipe that's somewhere like around Judicial, and he supposedly gives Juliet a way to like stop her or something, a way to stop it because his parents had figured it out.
Mhm. And I mean that's the gas, but the vitamin D plus that they're putting that in the water supply, right? Like
Yeah,
it's kind of like the conspiracies around fluoride and how like having fluoride in the water is like poisoning us or whatever, except for sounds like they're actually going to poison people through this water supply.
mm. So I do want to point out though that I think what happened was, you know how when Juliet goes to 17, all the people are dead outside. Some of them are over the hill. I think the sheriff was over the hill. The what do you call the surrounding? Is that a berm?
Uh,
You know how they have to go up a hill to get around. So I don't think that was supposed to happen. Like I don't think the safeguard is probably there to prevent people from spilling out all over the place.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I think that means that they did successfully plug the safeguard in 17 before they went out.
I Yes, I think that's right. And also, we don't have a good timeline for 17 either to know when the
Yeah.
poison gas came or, when people went out. And also, I mean, something I question about this vitamin D thing, it's one thing to give one person memory suppressant drugs and to like control their memories and plant their memories. It's an entirely different thing to do that to an entire population of people.
Yeah.
And have it work, right? Because like my sense is somebody in silo 17 remembered. And that's what makes it dangerous, right? Because it's a fail safe of sorts. If the vitamin D doesn't work, the whole silo is in trouble.
Yeah. So Helen arrives at her office and Daniel calls her and he tells her that he just spoke to Juan's dad. And I feel like this little detail is important for later, but he says that there's probably a recording of the mission on the dark web and he says, "I don't know where to begin with on the dark web." And which is so typical of Daniel, right?
Yeah, he's like, where do I look on the dark web? And I'm just like, precious, precious Daniel.
But she does apparently. So she's like, "Yeah, it's fine. I'll look it up." But she notices her boss approaching. And did you notice the office that she works in? It's very what's the word for it? Like she called it a playground when she was mocking it, but it's like those offices that you see of like I think like Google has like what they call a campus, right? It's
Hmm.
got like they've got like slides and like snacks and like all kinds of fun things, right? They call it. So I kind of
Yeah.
got the impression that that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, they're really working on improving the quality work life balance, I guess.
But her boss is approaching and he does not look happy.
No, no.
And it's so funny because she like immediately starts doing things to make like, oh, I'm actually working.
Right.
She was totally slacking, but I love how she's like, "I'm almost done with this article about." I forget what she talked about. It was like some kind of celibacy article, but she's like, "I'm almost done." But then you look at her screen, and it's like barely written. She has like the title and the subtitle.
Yeah, because I mean, like, she's probably gonna pull something out of thin air for that article because it's kind of clear she's really into like this bigger political, like
Yeah,
possible
investigative
conspiracy,
journalism, right?
right? As opposed to like this kind of, you know, I don't
She
want to call
totally
it
works
junk.
for no. She totally works for a clickbait farm.
Yeah, like BuzzFeed or something, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I used to work for a clickbait site like that, and the interface looks almost exactly like that. So I found that very amusing.
Yeah, and so she's not doing the work they want her to do. She's out here like doing her own thing.
And it is telling too when she's like, "What I'm working on, it will be worthy of a Pulitzer," and her boss is like, "I don't want one. I want you to do your job."
Right. Right.
And then that's when she says, "I'd rather work remote than hang around in this playground." And then he tells her, "I'm firing you. We've packed up your things already," which I thought was funny because she didn't even notice that all her stuff was in a box for her already.
Right. Like she had no idea. She's just sitting there living her best life, talking on the phone. And he's like, "Yeah, so we've already packed up your stuff. You can go."
And then they took her laptop too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she even cared about this job. This is just sort of a pretext, right, of being able to do her work.
And I also think she was probably just embarrassed because nobody wants to be fired. I mean, being fired is embarrassing, even if you don't want the job, right?
Yeah. And also people who say things like, "I didn't even want this fucking job." Like,
Yeah,
it's one of those things you kind of throw out because you're kind of embarrassed or humiliated in that
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, definitely. But when she's being escorted out, she turns around and there was the white haired man talking to her boss. So that's what I meant about timing. She was just talking to Daniel like minutes ago, and he said, "I was just talking to Mr. Alameda." And that's where the white haired man was too. So did he like go straight from there to here? Like what? Can this guy teleport?
I mean, maybe. Um,
A
because we don't I mean, maybe Daniel's saying that, "Well, I just talked to this guy," and it's like the funeral was
couple hours
yesterday.
later or
Yeah.
something.
Maybe that's what he means, but yeah, he's kind of in
Maybe.
2 places at once.
Yeah. Two sightings. Or is there one more? I think that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, do you have any thoughts on who the white-haired man might be?
Ah, I don't know. I don't think he's with the Thurmans. Maybe he's works for the billionaire guy, Stenson,
Mhm.
because he was at the clinic, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's everywhere where anything about this, about what happened could possibly be explored or talked about. And he was obviously following Charlotte, like, because at first in episode 1, it does kinda look like she's being paranoid for no reason, but the more we see him, the more I'm convinced that he was actually following her.
Yeah. So I think this is the fourth sighting. Just thinking back, so he was in the metro station, he was at the clinic, and then he was at the funeral, and he was at this workplace,
Yes.
Saws or whatever, which I thought was funny because the actress who plays Kathleen, her last name is Saws. I feel like that's a little Easter egg nod to her. I bet you they were like, "Oh, you have such a cool last name. We gotta put this in somehow."
Maybe.
Okay, so next we go to recycling, and Orla's sister is reassuring her parents that Orla is probably fine and that the sheriff will track her down. But meanwhile, I'm just like, oh, she's toast. Her sister walks out explaining that her parents still look at them as children and
Mhm.
that they worked in supply for decades, but that Orla was the first to become Shadow. And she also tells him that Orla had a new boyfriend, and he used to be the boyfriend of Glenda Harwood, the previous Shadow. So there's like some what do you call it? Like
There's some
romantic tension
animosity.
or something, right? It's like boyfriend stealer, job stealer. Of course, she's going to be upset with Orla. You would think, right?
Yeah, and we saw that manifest with her uncle, right? Because Glinda's uncle
Or her
is the one who
dad,
kinda
the dad.
was it her dad? I thought it was an
I think
uncle.
yeah, no, it's her dad.
Um, got mouthy, right,
Yeah,
with
on the
Orla.
stairs.
Mhm.
Ouch. When she was grabbing him. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But Paul asks, "Do we know the sister's name?" I don't recall her name. But Paul asks her if there was anything strange or different about Orla, and she says that Orla is normally upbeat and that people gravitate to her, but lately she seemed burdened by something. And this was something that the guy who was in critical supply with Orla had said too. He said that she seemed like lighter because
Mhm.
previously it seemed like she had a lot of weight on her shoulders. So, do you think that guy who said that to Orla is Mike Davison or just a coworker?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The guy with the dog.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a good question because, like,
Yeah,
maybe that's her boyfriend. I don't know. But I took that whole like she was less burdened lately because the last time we heard that come up as well, it was after her meeting with Juliet. And she
yeah,
never did get to tell Juliet, exactly what she wanted because Juliet got pulled away.
yeah. Because of the IT thing, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so she had talked about how she was investigating Glenda, Glenda Harwood.
Mhm.
She thinks that, and she was good. She was going to talk to Juliet about things being stolen from Critical Supply, and so
Mhm.
this is what I think might be happening. Is that I'm not completely. This is still like forming in my brain, but I feel like Glenda is stealing from Critical Supply. I don't know if she knows like schedules and things like that, and knows when to get in and stuff like that to take things. But she certainly has the knowledge, and maybe she was let go as Shadow because Carla found out. And then you have this rebar shortage that Shirley keeps talking about. She needs this rebar to fix the stairs, and she hasn't been able to have it. So that kind of tells me that rebar has been stolen, right?
Mhm. But I mean, like,
So
what do you do with stolen rebar in this silo?
okay, so that I can talk about later, but I think it has to do with Lucas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Helen and Daniel are in a car and they're gonna go meet some guy Steve that I guess she found on the dark web.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he was like, "Why couldn't he just send us a file or a link?" And she's like, "He insisted that we come in person." And she, I thought this interaction between them was pretty cute. she's like,
Yes.
she's like talking about getting fired, and he's like, "Well, were you doing a good job?"
Yeah.
But she's like, "Wow, I just got fired," and I love the patronizing way he's like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry, you got fired, those assholes."
Yeah, I mean, he's like I said earlier, he's just so precious. Like, he doesn't know how anything works, but I also like this scene between them because they kind of have a similar vibe that we saw in episode 1 between Daniel and Charlotte.
And they have such a opposites attract kind of dynamic. Like she's
Mhm.
really like what is a good word for her? Because it's like the way that she can't remember the street name, so she reaches in the back. She's like, "Oh, okay, you drive," and he has to like grab the wheel, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Jesus," but it's like nothing to her, right? So she's kind of wild, and he's kind of not. So
right.
I find that dynamic between them cute because he's always like thrown off by her.
Yeah, for sure.
But so they reach Steve's address and he reluctantly lets them in and he immediately demands their phones. And then he asks Daniel for his congressional badge, which I thought was like a pretty big deal. But
Yeah,
because, right? And then he's like, oh, that was the deal. I get to clone your badge. And he says for information on the recording. And so this is, I think, something that Helen should have picked up on, but didn't.
yeah,
But so Daniel refuses, and when Steve tells him, "Okay, get out," and
right.
he gives up his badge, and so he goes into his computer, and she asks, "Well, can we hear the recording?" He's like, "I was just told you wanted to know if it exists," and he says, "It exists." Like,
Yeah, so
oh, these people they got taken.
I mean, not only yes, but like it also kind of shows, I think, how Helen is in over her head here.
Yeah,
Because now we've mentioned Daniel kind of being a fish out of water in DC and around these people. But it seems to me that Helen might also be in a bit over her head.
yeah, and she's like painted as a street smart person, right?
Right, but she doesn't know how to deal with these dark web people, right?
Yeah,
Like she
yeah.
doesn't get the nuance of, we'll give you information on the recording and doesn't actually negotiate for exactly what she wants or the idea that he has to give up his congressional badge and things like that.
So Daniel asked if who he works for. He said he doesn't work for anybody. He's just into like exposing government people and holding them accountable. And
Mhm.
Daniel asked if he's listened to it. And he says yes, and it's horrible. And he says that it's unlike anything else he's ever heard. And Daniel interrupts him. The guy has been pretty cold toward him. He's been pretty like, I already gave you what you want to get out.
Right.
but but when he hears that Charlotte is his sister, he seems to soften to him,
Mhm.
and he tells him that someone in Moldova got 20 seconds of it. And this is important for like our discussion later. He says got 20 seconds of it and it was taken down 5 minutes later. So he recorded it to a cassette so that it wouldn't be
Mhm.
erased.
Again, we're going low tech, right?
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
low tech to preserve information. And I just think it's kind of funny because, there is the comment that he makes. He says, I only fuck with analog if I can help it. And I mean, like, talk about, the sort of why we need physical media conversation. That's basically what is going on here. He's like, I'm not going to put it on digital. It needs to be on something that's analog because digital stuff goes missing, right? Like anyone
Hmm.
can come and take it down, put a virus in it. We like to think the internet is forever, and it can be. It can be forever, right? Because we also see it go the other way, but it can also be a place in which information is siloed, to use a pun, and a place where information is becomes a narrative, right? Like this is the narrative we want put to the people, and this is what we're going to give them.
Okay, so he says no matter what they offer him, he's not going to give it up, and they can't take it. It's not going to leave his possession. But he doesn't think that they should listen to it. But Helen takes it and she listens to it, and she tells Daniel, "Don't listen to that." But
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting that they choose not to let the audience hear what she's listening to.
Hmm.
And at first, I thought it was because it was from Daniel's point of view. So he's just staring at her, and he can't hear what she's hearing, obviously, because she's listening on headphones. So I thought that could make sense. But then she's like, there's no way I'm not listening to this. So he grabs it from her and then he listens to it. So I thought then that we would get to hear it then.
Hmm.
But we don't. So I was really confused by that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it felt like it was something that the show was holding back for later
Yeah.
when I was watching the episode, and perhaps there is something that we need to hear in those tapes, or in that tape rather, but that we'll get that information later.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
Okay.
wasn't.
So this is what confuses me because so something that the Reddit mods have been I had mentioned that Apple TV sent the duck relic, and they're actually sending us something this week too that I'm really
Mm,
excited about. But they added us to Instagram close friends, and so we get to see exclusive stories.
hmm.
And two of them, like one of them was Helen listening to the audio, but it played the audio and you could hear it. Like when Helen listened to it, it was like very staticky. You could barely hear anything. And then when they also played the Daniel clip, and that one had audio too, but that had audio from the first episode when we actually saw Charlotte on the mission. So I mean, we had heard that stuff before. It was her
Right.
saying Mayday, the drone controls are going down or something like that. But I just I'm really confused. Did they publish an early version that was supposed to have the audio in it? Like, why would they have it silent in the published episode or the released episode, but then post stories with the audio in it?
I don't know. And it only went to close friends because I listened to the audio twice and I'm not really sure what it gave us that we didn't hear in the first episode.
Yeah. And also, did you notice too that the audio was about, he said it was 20 seconds, and they both listened to it, but it was different audio,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I said, like
Mm-hmm.
the first one was like a very staticky one, so it's different, and it was about 20 seconds, and then the second one too. So yeah, I don't. It doesn't add up somehow.
Yeah, no, one plus one equals three here. Um, but yeah, no, I did notice that it was a slightly different and it's supposed to be the same thing, but also it just, yeah, I didn't.
To me, it also didn't really line up to what they were describing it as. You know how Steve was like, "Oh, it was horrible," and Helen was like, "Oh, that was so terrible. Like, how what could make something like that happen?" But to me, the audio that was played on the close friend story, I mean, was it horrible? It didn't sound horrible to me.
I mean,
So
it could be distressing hearing a loved one saying Mayday, Mayday,
yeah,
I'm going down, in that panic, but I'm with you. Like it didn't seem all of that
like the way they were describing
bad.
it was very built up, right? You're
Like
like,
you
wow,
shouldn't listen to
what
this.
did they hear? You know, it was very mystery boxy because we didn't get
Right.
to hear it.
Right. And also too, I will mention, oh, I don't is this does it happen in this scene or does it happen later? Daniel is very actually it's later when he becomes kind of like we got to tell the public about this. I'm going to go get that audio. To me that's really interesting because like what in the audio that we heard from the close friends is so important that we have to tell the public about, right?
Yeah,
Listening to someone freak out about going down, I mean, yeah, that's going to get people, but what information do we have there that the public needs to know?
yeah, yeah, I agree. It didn't really seem like it that much.
Mhm.
Okay, so next we have Sims dropping Anthony off at school, telling him he loves him, but he spots Juliet standing nearby and he gets immediately super furious. He pulls her away, like almost like roughing her up, kind of the way he's like jerking her, and he's like telling her, "You never come to my son's school, you never come to my home." And she tells him, "I'm just looking for your help." And keeps ranting, and he's telling her that he will spend the rest of his life in the mines for throwing her over a rail, which is, wow, very aggressive.
No, I didn't find that aggressive at all. I mean, like I found that to be a very like as like something a parent would say. Like if I ever catch you around my kid again after you traumatized him, I don't care if I go to jail. Like I will do it. Like so I mean that's kind of how I heard it.
Yeah, okay. But he says that Anthony wakes up in the middle of the night afraid. And Juliet is like, well, at least he remembers. At least he has a dad. At least he remembers what it's like to have a dad. And this really
Mhm.
seems to affect Sims
Mhm.
because he finally looks like actually sympathetic toward her. Because it's clear from his conversation later with Camille that he knows what's going on with her, what they're doing to her, that they're taking her memories away from her,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
It's not like what they've been telling everybody that she was in the fire and she lost her memories. It's they're taking them from her. which is
Right.
very different.
Right, because I think it's one thing to be in a type of cat and mouse game that we see Sims and Juliet in season 1. Um, it's an entirely different thing to see and experience another human being's memories being taken from them or suppressed or having new memories fed to them, right? Because I mean, again, you're getting to the core of, what makes a person.
Hmm.
And, if she doesn't have these memories of her father or what it's like to have a father, I could see that touching someone, especially a parent, on a very deep level because it's like
Hmm.
you've essentially erased what it is to be part of a family, to be human.
Yeah. But I mean, when you think about it, before Julie lost her memory, that's what the silo did to her, right? They manipulated everything where she lost her entire family and she ended up in mechanical. So
Yeah, again, though, I think that's different than listen, it's not good. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I still think that's a little bit different. Like this cat and mouse, this manipulation, this we're going to set you up so that you have to go out and clean and die is a little bit different than getting in there and really messing with someone's memories.
oh no, I
Because,
mean, I'm talking about the fact that her mother killed herself, her brother died because they wouldn't let the mom
oh,
operate on him, and then she lost her dad because she was so mad at him because she thought that he was the one who turned her mom in, and she isolated herself down deep, and so that's what I mean by like the silo cost her her entire family, and then she gets sent out to clean, and then her dad kills himself in the rebellion, while she's gone. So she has no family now, and it's the silo's fault. So
right. And she's also being told that her dad did something really heroic and she can't even remember.
yeah, but she wants to know from Sims, why did Bernard take him out of the mines and make him his shadow? Because this all happened while she was in 17, so she has no idea, and
Mhm.
nobody's telling her this kind of stuff because she's their little puppet, right? So
Right, and I don't even think Sims knows. He asks, but we never get resolution.
yeah, that's true. He demands to know, right? Because he wanted to be shadow, but he didn't get the job. But yeah, he doesn't get told that. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I mean, because like the thing, and I know this is season 2, so we've already covered this ground on this podcast, but the thing that's interesting about how Lucas Kyle becomes Shadow is Bernard literally pulls him up out of the mines. He's been sentenced to the mines for 5 years for basically breaking the rules of the silo, engaging in like because he helped Juliet is basically what happened. But it's
Adjacent
just
helped.
right, right, because they wanna control all of the information, and he's in a position where he can give out important information like he is right now. So, he becomes Bernard's shadow over Sims, who I think is just really like, "How did I get passed up by a criminal? Like, this dude's supposed to be in the mines for 5 years."
Plus, I also feel like he didn't really respect Lucas because Lucas was an IT nerd. He
Mhm.
probably felt like, I deserve this because I'm the lead of janitorial.
Yeah.
So Camille comes into IT to find Anthony and Robert. They're talking to one of the IT workers, and Anthony's playing with her. And so she's like, "Why is he not at school?" And he takes her aside and he says, "I want a family day. We need to form memories as a family." And she's like, "Oh my god, not today. Do you have any idea what I'm dealing with?" And I I I
I
th- I was amused by this because
Uh-huh.
the whole swapping of dynamic. That's probably what it was like
Yes.
for her, right?
Yes, like, because that's immediately where I went in this scene. I was like, 1, we've seen this already with these 2, but then also, like, it's kind of a gender role reversal in some ways where, we usually see, like, it's mom saying, "Oh, we just need a family day together," but now it's, like, dad who's been really impacted by Juliet telling him she doesn't even remember what it's like to have a dad, that he now goes and pulls the kid out of school and is like, "We need a family day."
And I don't want to be like that, but it's such a man thing to just be like, "Oh my god, this is suddenly super important to me, so we have to prioritize it."
Right.
Even though he knows her position and she's doing so much and he knows what all the things she's dealing with. I mean, that's what he wanted. That's the job he wanted. So he must know that it's a very busy and demanding job. So,
Mhm.
and yet he's like, "I pulled him out of school. Can we go have a picnic?"
Right.
Ah. Okay, so down at the Gap, Shirley she's working and she spots Juliet on the stairs and she gets so distracted that she drops a load of like sandbags or something on people down below. And Teddy's like, "Oh god, I'll go talk to her." Because She's totally unapologetic too. She just drops it and she's just like, "Oh,
Yeah, and could have dropped it on those people.
I know." That's how distracted and upset she is.
Yeah.
But next we go to outsiders, Kathleen, Sandy, and Danny. They're talking very suspiciously in the hallway. I was just like, can't these people look less suspicious when they're meeting in the hallway?
Absolutely not. What would be the point of that?
Can't you meet in a closet or something? They're not very good outsiders. They need to be
No.
outside in the hallway talking.
Yeah, like that's the other thing is like I don't know how the overseer is not catching these people. Like how are they
Yeah.
evading? Because they're not very they don't seem to be super crafty when it comes to like hiding.
And like Danny was like known to be with Patrick and Juliet when they blasted the cleaning video out. So they know that Danny is a person of interest. How is he just walking around?
Right, right. And yeah, anyway, it's they're not very good at being like covert.
No. But Kathleen says that Juliet is asking the right questions and that he might be able to find Lucas. So now the outsiders and Camille kind of want to follow Juliet to see if she can lead them to Lucas. Everybody's looking for Lucas.
Mhm.
But they've been keeping tabs on her, having her followed, and they know that she's down at the gap. And so Juliet tells Teddy she's going to go down. He's like, it's not safe. And she's trying to pull strings and just be like, excuse me, I'm the mayor. I'm going.
Right, like she's using her like they put her in there as a puppet and now she's going to use that title.
Yeah. But so Shirley finally, finds the courage to confront her. And she's like, if he tells you it's not safe, it's not safe. And she's like, well, why did you ignore my note? And she tries to lie her way out of it kind of terribly. She's like, oh, I didn't get it. I was busy. And like Juliet really like calls her on it. She's like, really? That's what you're gonna tell me? And this is more, I thought, like Jules too. And I had wished that they had indicated that Shirley has some kind of inkling that she can see the old Jules surfacing, because we've
Mhm.
seen her talk to Juliet up top during that like luncheon or whatever, and she was so upset seeing her in that dress and seeing her like talking that way, and just the way that everyone was fawning over her. And now she's down here and she just looks different. She's got her hair tied back again and she's sassing at Shirley. And so I just kind of wish that she had at least maybe looked at her suspiciously, like, what's going on? Like, why are you talking to me like this? Are you coming back to me, kind of thing? But I don't know, it didn't seem to affect her.
Yeah, so I mean, this was the scene that really got me thinking about like Juliet's personality is still there. It's just the memories are gone, right? Because this is how we've seen them interact before. I mean, obviously not quite so much animosity from Shirley because of like what she's experiencing emotionally, but you know, it's Juliet. Like she's talking to Jules, she just doesn't have her memories.
Shirley tells her, do you have any idea what it's like to have your best friend not know you? And Juliet just fires right back at her. She's like, do you have any idea what it's like not to know your best friend? Which is a fair question, right?
Mhm.
And she's like, if you were my best friend, why didn't you come when I asked you to? Which is also fair. But she
Right.
asks her about Lucas Kyle and the Digger Void, and Shirley says again, it's been sealed up and he can't be down there. And so Juliet grabs something from Teddy. What did she grab from him? Was it to protect her hands going down the rope, or
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
she like grabs it from his belt or something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, she lowers herself down. That's it. This is the scene from the trailer where she lowers herself down the gap.
Mm.
She hits the load coming up, right? Like you hear it like smack. She smacks her foot or something on it. So, but Knox meets her at the bottom and he tells her there's no way Lucas is down there, and he offers to help her look for him. And so she's telling him about how Lucas was pulled out of the mines and made Bernard's shadow. So he must have learned something when he went down there with Shirley. And so she asks about the mines, and he says he doesn't know anything, but he knows a guy.
Mhm.
Next, we have Camille scolding Robert for taking Anthony out of school, because the very act of taking him out of school is probably scaring him too, even though he didn't see Juliet.
Right.
And she's like, I don't have time for field trips. And he's very clingy almost.
Mhm.
he's like, it's really important that we form memories, even when it's not convenient. And oh my gosh, she gets so pissed off because, like we said earlier, the tables have turned. She's the busy one, the super important person now, and he's the one who's just like, oh, we should go do this. We need to be a family, and they probably had fights about this all the time, right?
Right.
Before, where she was like, we need family time. You're letting your son grow up and you're always gone, kind of thing. And so now
Mhm.
the tables have turned, and so he admits that, he's kind of late to the party. He hasn't cared about this stuff before, and she wants to know why he's so focused on this. And he explains that, it's because Julie doesn't even remember what it was like to have a dad. And so that's when she tells him what she's doing with the vitamin D plus. She's ordered it to water filtration, and since he used to work for Bernard, he knows what that means. And so he says the same thing you're doing to Juliet, only lower dose and slower, and no one knows what's happening until it's too late. So he knows what they're doing to Juliet.
Mhm.
And so if they add it to the water supply, do you think that the people in the know get clean water? Because would they dose themselves? I feel like they wouldn't.
No.
So they probably just get like undosed water to drink from, right?
Yeah, or maybe like that water doesn't come to their quarters. I don't know. Like you would think that they're not going to be like they're not going to drug themselves.
Yeah. But it kind of sounds like he's concerned that their son is going to get dosed because he's opposed to this because, and she's talking about it too, like, he might not remember them. And so it kind of sounds like, their son would get dosed. So does that include them too? Are they left like the lone people who remember while everyone else becomes blank slates? Or
Maybe, but this also raises an interesting question of like how this memory suppression actually works. Because like are they going to have to keep dosing the water supply forever?
yeah,
Like cuz it's kind of implied that Juliet needs these pills, right? But we haven't yet seen her remember anything
yeah.
of note. So I
Well,
mean,
in
it's
the
really
past,
interesting
they
like how
talked
far.
about how in the past Dr. Senkovich talked about how it works. He says that they give them the medication and then they stop the medication and then they refill their brain, their 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 heads with memories, and then that's it. So I feel like the vitamin D is not something forever. It's just up to a certain point, and then they tell them what they need to know, and that's what they retain.
Mm,
So it's not necessarily memory suppression so much as memory replacement, right?
uh-huh.
So like they
Yeah.
can reboot the whole history of the silo just by making everybody go into this lull state, then telling them what happened, and then suddenly that's just what their history is, right?
Yeah.
But they talk about a plan that they've had for their son, and that's no matter what needs to be done, they've agreed that they're going to make sure their son survives so that he can make it out of the silo alive, even if it means that they forget him.
Interesting that they want him out of the silo though.
Yeah.
I also thought this was just a really good acting from Common because, like, to me, it really hit, like, his request really hit as though it's coming from a father. Because we often see Sims in this role of, he's head of janitorial, he's the enforcer, but like everything that's going on right now in this conversation with Camille, yeah, there's silo business happening, but he's being a father. Like this is coming out of fear that a father has for his child.
And I feel like and they established in the last season that this is part of what cost him the shadow job, is because Bernard didn't like that he was putting his family before the silo. Like he was
Mhm.
having his family escorted home by raiders and stuff like that. And so he's criticizing the fact that he cares so much about his family. But
Yeah, how dare he care about his family?
easy for Bernard to say he doesn't have one, right? So he doesn't know what it's like.
Right.
But what you said about Common's acting, I've seen a lot of comments on the subreddit praising him for this because in previous seasons, people were always criticizing Common's acting and his accent and his leather jacket. Everybody he was like the scapegoat of the show, but people seem to be warming to him in this new role. And I feel like this stuff really supports my crack theory that Camille has been already been dosing her husband. he's
Maybe.
already he's already getting the vitamin D.
Yeah, his memory replacement's already a go.
Because he's so different, and he's got I mean, they established that he has familial priorities rising up, but just the way he acts in this scene where he's just like, I want to go on a picnic, it was very, very different, a very different
Right.
Sims. And I also question whether the stuff that he told Juliet about what happened to Bernard, if that's a lie or if that's how he remembers it. Because we get to
Mm,
see the scenes, right, from his perspective when he's telling Juliet what happened to Bernard. But I don't know if this is that's part of my theory, is that he's already it's been 3 months, so she had time to do it. She could
right.
have dosed him during dinner or put in his food or his drinks or whatever. She could have done it to him, and she could have implanted things in his head so he acts more like a cooperative husband than she's had in the past.
Yeah, and am I right to get the impression that like everyone in the silo takes some vitamins? Vitamins in quotation marks.
I don't know. I mean, there's the whole thing about the syndrome and
Mhm.
Paul and his herbs and for his treatment for the syndrome. I don't know, and we still don't know what causes the syndrome, right? What and why are people discriminated against if they have the syndrome? They're not allowed to work certain jobs and things like that. And like they have like a self-reporting system. Not what
Mhm.
do you call it, self-reporting? Basically, they want you to report on people around you if you notice that they have symptoms.
Right. And again, it's about surveillance, right? It's kind of like this, if you're a good citizen, you will tell us anything you notice about the other citizens. Like it's
Yeah,
common, very very common like totalitarian tactics, right? Like this is
tell
how
on your neighbor.
right, like cuz everyone's always watching you, so be good, don't trust anyone. If you're a good citizen, you'll report them. And it's like basically this really strong allegiance to the ruling class is what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
So Diego knocks with a sensitive issue, and Sim has to leave, and they both look so awkward because the dynamic again has shifted where he's not privy to the sensitive information. He has to leave so that she can
Mhm.
get this report from the guy. And he basically tells her, Juliet's below the gap. And so that's a problem for Camille. And
Right.
so Sims goes to Anthony to have him pack up, and he says he's going to take him to lunch and then take him back to school. And he can tell that something's bothering his dad, so he offers him the duck relic back, saying that he gave it to him so he wouldn't worry. So that's why he wants to give it back to his dad.
Mhm.
I joked in the Discord that the old Sims would have put cuffs on Anthony because he's dealing in relics. He was very cold blooded before.
Yeah, he definitely was.
So next we have Knox taking Jules to see Mark, and this is the guy. I thought he was in a metalworks kind of department, but I think maybe we came up with that name on our own because later on they say that Mark is head of tool fabrication. So that's
Mhm.
the department that he works in. But she wanted to talk to him because he went to the mines and actually survived. And I get the impression we're supposed to think that that's why he's in a wheelchair, is because the mines were so hard on him that he came out, but he was disabled.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like when we see Bernard, like that's how he kind of gets Lucas on his side too, and gets him to be a shadow. Is like, yeah, we commuted your sentence to 5 years, but you're still gonna die. Like you're not gonna survive 5 years because of how hard the mines are on people.
But she tells him that Lucas was from IT and he went into the mines. He laughs at her. He's and he was giving her kind of sass too, right? He was like, "Do we still call you Madam Mayor?" But he laughs and he says, "Oh, he's definitely dead," because I mean, IT people are softer. I want to say
Right. Right.
that's what he's saying. But she insists that he didn't, and that is probably because he learned something in the mines that Bernard wanted to know. So she wants to know what that might have been. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of what Juliet has been chasing has been incorrect, but it's
Hmm.
leading her to where she needs to go. right? She thought he was in the digger void. They tell her he's not there, and so that leads her to think about the mines, and then she thinks that he learned something there, but she has it backwards, right? He learned something in the digger void, and he's in the mines.
Right.
She thought that he was in the digger void and he learned something in the mines, but Mark insists that if Lucas got out, it was because he it's not because he learned something in there, it's because he got a cushier job. So
Right.
so they're driving back to DC, and Helen asks if she should drop Daniel off at the Rayburn. And I had to look this up because I had no idea what the Rayburn was, but I guess it's the
Mhm.
House office building. So that's where
Yeah, I
all
had
the
no idea either. Yeah.
yeah, it's where the congressional people's offices are. So but he says no, he wants to go back to Steve and get that recording because the public needs. Okay, so somebody in Discord, Feedy, he pointed out that this quote that Daniel says in the car is actually a callback to the season 2 finale when Helen says, "The people you work for, and by that your constituents, not the shadowy creeps who pay for campaigns." And so that's what he says in the car. He's like, "I want to get this recording because the people I work for need to know." And he says, "By that I don't mean the shadowy creeps who pay for." So I thought that was an interesting callback.
It is. It is. I think it's an interesting callback, but also I've seen enough sci-fi and speculative fiction. The people never need to know. Like that is my takeaway from everything is that we always say we do, right? Like we all want transparency, we all want to know like the government's lying to us, there's a conspiracy, we need to know what's going on. The people never need to know, like because we're not equipped to handle any of this. Like we're not and again, this also goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. I'm not even sure what's on this tape
Yeah,
that the public needs to hear because it's mostly just her crashing.
yeah,
And so, like, what is it that's so bad that we're hearing here?
yeah. Okay, so next we go to Camille. She's in her office. She hears from I think her name is Erickson, the new Amundsen, the new head of janitorial. She
Hmm.
gets a report that Jules and Knox were talking to Mark, and so she then it goes to Knox. He's apologizing to Jules for not being more helpful, and he says it's weird that he knows more about her than she knows about herself, and yet she's still her. Like he can see that's actually what you said too. Like you can still see her personality.
Yeah, and this scene was pretty pivotal for me as well because he says, "You're still you." And I think this is the emerging theme for me. She's has no memories, but she's still what makes Juliet herself, which is why she's still a danger to, the overseer, Camille, and I guess the silo. Because I think this is what we saw in her interaction with Shirley earlier. She doesn't remember her best friend, doesn't have those memories, but she knows exactly like how to push on her, right? And how to get her to do stuff and how she would talk to her best friend.
I still feel like this Jules that he sees is only a result of her not taking the medication because like the whole thing about how she grabs the rope and she lowers herself down, that's not something that Madame Mayor would do. I feel like the docile mayor that Camille has been cultivating, that's I don't think she would have ever done that. I think that's totally Jules.
Yeah. No, because again, like Madam Mayor, I think is a more, and this is what Shirley's kind of commenting on last episode, or in actually episode one as well. Like she's more put together. She's supposed to be like this woman who wears dresses, doesn't get dirty, very docile, as you mentioned. But that's not Juliet. Like she's not. Like she's always been up to her elbows in it. So yeah, I think it's Juliet.
And I mean, Juliet's been kind of a dick too, right? So the thing that she does to Jerry about the "Did you just touch me?"
Hmm.
that is definitely Jules. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, Knox is like telling her, there's no one like you. You fixed the generator, and that's gonna keep the lights on. And you nearly drowned doing it. And I feel like I gotta point out that the reason she almost drowned was because Knox was just gripping a railing and staring at a gauge instead of actively helping. Oh my god. That continues to be my one gripe about Knox is he was so useless in that episode. Oh my goodness. But he tells her, you've been outside, you've looked at the sky, and
Hmm.
that's when she notices, someone's watching them. And so she's like, okay, keep walking. And then they gotta try to lose their tail. And then we go back to Camille. She's looking at Mark, and she has a very oh shit moment where she's like, oh, he was in the mines. And so I don't like Camille. I've said that before, but I gotta give her props for putting this together.
Mhm.
But so next we go. I don't like the cuts here. It's a little too jerky.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go back to Juliet, and she says she's gonna find Lucas, and there's only one place that no one ever looked for him. And so Knox understands, and he's like, "I'm not taking you to the mines," but it's like, why does he need to take her anywhere? She can just go there herself.
Right.
Okay, so Camille goes to the overseer, and she's like, "How close are the other silos?" And it's like, "I'm not gonna tell you that."
Right.
But she points out that as Shadow, Lucas knows that there's other silos, and as someone who was sent to the mines, he understands that there's very strict rules about how far they can tunnel out. And so basically the overseer is like, oh, if you're trying to say that you think that Lucas is just trying to tunnel to another silo, then maybe you should do something about it,
Right.
because that's going to be an immediate safeguard. And so she leaves the server room, and she tells Erickson to order rat extermination teams to go to the mines and just gas the entire thing and fuck everybody who's in there, right?
Right. Like they're and I mean that's so diabolical because she's willing to kill anyone who's in the mines, anyone who's not even connected to this, just to try to get Lucas.
Yeah. And so, okay, so this next part is, I feel like there's like an error in here somewhere production wise, because the floors just don't make any sense to me. Okay, so
Mhm.
I was keeping track of the floors. So when Billings is downstairs, he's like, I forget where he's going. He's like on like some walkway or on the stairs or something, and then the extermination teams are running past him, and you can clearly see that it's on floor 124. So this is still pretty deep, pretty much in the down deep, and they're going up to the mines. And so then we see them start fumigating, and the miners are throwing up, and they were trying to bust out of like a gated entrance. And so I don't understand how that happened. Did the fumigation teams go in, lock the doors behind them, and then start doing it? Why would they lock the doors behind them?
So two things here. Actually three things. One, the fumigation team has masks.
Yeah.
So they're fine. Two, the way that I understand the
If they know
mines
people are in the mines, though, why would they lock them in? Is what I'm saying.
because they want to kill them. Specifically, they're trying to get Lucas Kyle. They don't want anyone getting out.
Oh, so that was
So
intentional, you're saying?
that yes, yes. I mean,
Oh, okay.
think Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, the big fire in New York City that got like regulation started, or it's kind of like, or it kind of becomes the, I don't know how to say it right now, but it's sort of the big example of why we needed regulations in factories
And
because
worker
like
protection.
yeah, like they would basically lock these people in and then there was a fire one day and they couldn't get out and so everyone just burns to death or dies of smoke inhalation. And so the other thing that I was getting at here, the mines. Some of those people work there voluntarily, but some of them have been sentenced there.
Yeah.
So you have to keep them confined somehow. So I think there could be a couple different things going on, but I definitely think the locking of the doors, because the people who are gassing have masks, so they're going to be fine. It's to keep anyone from getting out.
You know, that makes a lot of sense now that you say it. And I guess it totally went over my head because she had just said, one of the rats is Lucas Kyle. But I feel
She
like
didn't
maybe,
care.
yeah. But I
She
feel
didn't
like
care.
there was a scene that was cut that would have helped it make sense. If the extermination team went in thinking, oh, there's rats in here, we're going to fumigate. And then somebody from judicial comes and locks the gates behind them.
Yeah, I don't
Because
really see it that way.
I feel like the extermination teams are not part of judicial. They're just like exterminators. So I don't really see them being willing to kill humans. They think they're going up there to go kill rats. They're being used to kill people, but they think that they're doing their job.
Uh yeah, but it's the way that she says rats, which leaves me a little bit less convinced that they don't know that they It's the way Camille says rats. There's something in the way that Camille delivers this order that my mind immediately connected to what was going on
No, no, no.
in
I
terms of,
think, I think she is definitely intending to cook humans, but I'm saying the actual people spraying the fumes and the poison. I don't think they went in there thinking that they were going to kill all the people with mines.
but I guess I'm not as quite as convinced as you are that they don't know that they're going to kill people. Like that they're just there to kill rats. Like I'm not quite as convinced by that.
Hmm.
Because I mean that kind of gets into the whole line of thinking of like we're just following orders. And again, it's something in the way that Camille delivers that order that makes me think that. But I totally see what you're saying in terms of like something there to indicate that it wasn't just these like day laborers because we actually do in the next scene, maybe it's a couple scenes down, we do see people who are there looking, and that's kind of the big reveal of the episode, right? It like we do see that those people are down there. And I think they're from Judicial. I'm not entirely sure where they're from.
The raiders, you mean? Yeah, they came
Yeah.
when they saw like Lucas, right? But
Yeah, but
yeah,
they're down there.
yeah.
So I don't
Okay,
maybe you're right.
so going back to the floor thing, so Jules and Knox get up there to the mine's entrance where everybody's stuck inside, and you can clearly see behind them it says 70. So this is above the gap because I looked it up, and the gap is from levels 90 to 92, which is below 70. And so I'm just like, is there like a time skip in here somewhere and they had to go up the gap, or is it just that that 70 was supposed to be much lower? Because also when Nox is telling her about the mines, they're on level 92, presumably because they're at the bottom of the gap. And he tells her there's nothing down. He refers to mines as down there,
Hmm.
so it kind of implies that the mines entrance is lower than 92.
So here's the other thing it could be, right? If we're talking about narratives being given to people, maybe this isn't a writing error so much as, or writing inconsistency, so much as no one actually knows what floor they're on. Like, no, I'm not even like trying to be funny about it. Like, what if there is something because okay, maybe this isn't a writing inconsistency in terms of the floors so much as people have different understandings of what the floors are or how many floors there are, or maybe they're being told something. I don't know. Like to me, anything is possible when we start digging into people's memories and replacing them and talking about narratives that government or ruling class is willing to give to people. So I kind of don't trust things, or take things kind of as they are at face value. Thanks, Chris Carter.
So Knox goes to find Harwood. Jules finds someone and asks what's going on. He takes out a gas mask and he heads in and he tells her, they just came in with no warning and they started throwing rat bombs. And she takes a mask and she goes in and she finds a man choking it. Oh my god, I knew what was gonna happen as soon as she was like, oh, here, take this. We can take turns. And he's just very he's just like, no, I'm taking this mask, and he like throws her and she hits her head and everything and she starts choking and she collapses on the ground and somebody comes and finds her, and we all know it's Lucas, right? When she collapses and she's like choking, we're just like, he's coming. If he hadn't shown up, I would have been super shocked.
Right.
But he carries her out. His face is covered, but she's choking on the walkway, and so he pulls his face covering out. And I was like, "Why did you do that, man?"
Right.
Because of course the Raiders come right then, and they're like, "It's Lucas Kyle."
Right. Like he's basically outed. Like they know where he's at.
Lucas sprints away, and I guess the Raiders don't have cardio training because he outruns them with no problem.
Yeah, and I mean like it's kind of funny too that Camille calls him a rat, and because he kind of scurries away like one.
Yeah, yeah. He's hiding in a closet, and we're led to think that, oh, they're gonna find him. But Sandy and Danny open the door, and he's like, "What a shitty place to hide."
Right.
I like that. Okay, then we go back to Daniel, and Helen, and they've reached Steve's place again, but it's been ransacked, and he is missing. So
Hmm.
that dude
So
is
like
toast.
Yeah, and, like, I smell a government conspiracy here.
Oh yeah, he's got a bag over his head somewhere.
Yeah, he's definitely. He's not I don't expect a good outcome for Steve.
But arrives at the mines. He asks Karen what's going on, and she reports that one person was found dead in the mines who wasn't a miner. And he looks at the person, and it's Orla. Ah!
I mean, we kinda called this a couple episodes ago.
Okay, no, but I feel like there's a little nitpicky thing later on that I'm gonna talk about later about when Orla died. Okay, so because at this point I kind of thought this was a body dump. You know, they were hiding her body in the mines, kind of thing.
Mhm,
Okay, so next it goes to medical. Jules is in bed. She's got an oxygen mask on. She's sleeping, and Nurse Amy is like, "We have to put guards in her door. Nobody gets in except doctors and Mrs. Sims." And so yeah, she's incapacitated for now.
mhm,
Then we go to the overseer, who's praising Camille's quick thinking and says that this is an opportunity because you can use the story of Jules going in to try to save people, and you know you can kill her and then just make her
right,
a martyr, right? And use her, and you'll still have the benefit of Juliet without having like the consequences of her, like her taking her out of the equation, because they had the overseer had talked about that graph, right, with the red and the blue line, and saying
mhm,
that if the two lines met, that she would have outlived her usefulness. But now it's saying that, I mean, if you just get rid of her like this is the perfect way to make it be a good thing.
right. Again, it's like she's a martyr, right?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
brave mare goes
She
in
died for the
looking for people.
silo.
Right. Trying to save all these miners.
But it gives an updated population count of 9,912. So earlier, when I was talking to Camille, it said 9,913. So I
Mhm,
think that Orla was probably just tied up in the mines, like held
mhm,
captive. And then the fumigators came and they killed her. And she couldn't escape because she was maybe a captive of Glenda's, because Glenda, her dad is in charge of the mines. So if she needed to hide Orla because Orla has discovered her plot of stealing rebar or whatever, my half formed theory, um,
mhm,
but I think that she was just incapacitated, not dead. She was being kept somewhere in the mines, maybe like her dad's office or something, or a closet or
mhm.
something, and then they forgot about her, or they were elsewhere and they couldn't go get her, and then she died. So
And I'm actually really suspicious of this idea that she's the only one who died in this.
yeah, yeah, I was really confused about that too, because I mean, there were a whole bunch of people throwing up and like gagging, and like
Right.
we said, like they wanted to kill those people because they're trying to get Lucas, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't say they wanted to kill him. I mean, which is how I said it, so you're not misquoting me, but it's they didn't care. Like, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, to me that's I don't know. I don't know what the difference between being a sociopath and a psychopath is realistically, but that indicates something, right? Like you're willing to kill untold number of people that are in the mines, including the Orla, whether we don't know if she was still alive or not at the
yeah,
time that the fumigation happened, but you're willing to kill all of these people in the mines just so that you can get at one guy, right?
yeah.
But also Orla, I couldn't tell because I was, taking my own notes and looking at your notes. I honestly couldn't tell based on the body whether she was
I
just
mean, it
dirty
looked
because
it
she'd
looked
been
like
in the
her.
mines. No, no,
She had
no, no.
she had blood on her head too. So,
It looked like her, but what I couldn't tell was she just dirty or had she been dead for a while?
mm,
So that's what I couldn't tell because I take your point in terms of her being held captive. And maybe she couldn't get out, so she died. But I was questioning like was she dirty or was she like been there for a couple days dead?
yeah. So I was wondering that too, but that's why I'm pointing to the population count change. Is
Mhm.
I think the overseer knows that she died in that fumigation thing. So I think that's why the count changes.
And also, because this came up earlier in our conversation when we were talking about what Shirley's mark meant. Um, are people being tracked, like their biomarkers being tracked, or so that we know, like when someone dies, like when they're biological clock stops, or however we want to say it in polite company, you know, are they being tracked to that degree? Like there's some kind of biomarkers that we can tell, like, oh, one just died, so now we're down to 9, 9, 12.
It
Or
wouldn't
is it that
surprise
someone
me.
reported? Yeah, I mean, it could be that level of surveillance, right? Or did someone just report we only found one body, so
And I mean,
now
it
it's
could just be that the overseer is the only one who has access to this tracking data, right? And the
mhm,
rest of the silo has to rely on the reporting. So it might be both, right?
mhm.
Because if you're going to be inserting something into people, why not put a tracker if you're trying to keep utter control over everybody, right?
Right, but isn't it only the women who have the birth
Well,
control
it's only the
devices?
women, so I don't know.
Yeah. But there could be other ways to do it, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you need this implant for something," and just put the damn tracker in. I mean, it's not that hard.
She makes a note that doing what the overseer is suggesting would mean that she wouldn't need to dose everybody with vitamin D. And this is highlighted as important because of what Sims has been focusing on. She
Mhm,
wouldn't have to dose her family. You know, her son wouldn't have to forget her. So it's a temptation for her. I think that's why they've set it up this way. They want to put this dilemma in front of Camille. Like, what is she going to choose, right?
mhm.
Is she gonna kill Juliet and save her family, or is she gonna do something else? But it asks her if she's going to do it. And it tells her, did you ever consider why you were chosen to be head of IT? And she disappointed me right away, saying, oh, I thought it was because of my experience as a raider. And I was like, what the fuck would your experience as a raider make you the ideal candidate for head of IT? I was just like, what? Anyway.
Wishful thinking, right? Because I think we everyone wants to think of themselves as, like, really great. Like, we all wanna see ourselves as great people, right? Like, no one wants to see themselves as not a great person, not successful. So, I mean, she wants to see herself in the most positive light, but what I like about this scene is, like, it's probably her most negative quality that
Yeah.
landed her this job.
Yeah, it tells her it was your ability to lie because at the core at its core the job requires deception, and it tells her that her ability to like play her husband on both sides and like manipulate everything, that's what caused it to grant her the position. And that explains a big question I had last season during the finale. Is like, why does it just choose Camille and tell Rob and Anthony, you guys gotta leave so that I can I can talk to her. I was like, why is she so special? And I guess it was all the things that she was doing, but it makes me aware that it knows enough about what she was doing. It was watching everything that she was doing. It knows enough about her manipulation to be able to pick her, right?
Mhm. And also too, like, it can tell that she's lying by the stress in her voice and her cortisol
And her
levels in her breath.
cortisol.
I mean, that goes back to the conversation we just had moments ago about, like, tracking people's life signs and stuff, like, and maybe it's just in this one room. Maybe this is
Maybe.
just a high-tech room and everything else is low-tech. Maybe that's why this is happening, but, like, if this AI can detect to this level of certainty or to this degree, I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. And I mean that's kind of what I'm saying too. Is that like she didn't show up and say like, "Oh, here's my manipulation resume. I was playing my husband and I was playing the rebels and I was doing all these things."
Right,
It already knew all these things that she had done. So
right.
it's watching.
It's always watching us.
I mean that's why Lucas was, when he told Bernard, he was like he was like leaning in really close and he was like, if it hears us, we're all dead.
Mhm.
So, but I mean, because it pointed out that she was lying when it asked her, why did you let her go when she was holding you hostage? And she finally admits that it was because she wanted to, like, she admired her desire for the truth and she wanted to know what Juliet was seeking too. She wanted to know the truth too, but she says that now she understands that that was a mistake and she shouldn't pursue those things.
Mhm.
She says Juliet is an existential threat and that she has a chance to eliminate her and she will do it. And that's where the episode ends.
I don't think she's gonna do it,
I don't
but
think so either.
yeah, I love people with big dreams.
I've been seeing a lot of people saying that they think that as soon as the overseer told Camille, "Oh, it's because you're such a good liar," and she immediately turned it into like manipulating the overseer, and she's playing like next level chess. And I was just like, I don't know about that.
I don't either. Like, has anyone ever successfully beaten a computer? Like when you play games and stuff, like I mean, sure, can you win a chess match here and there? Sure, against a computer, but like
And she
I don't know.
and she's had access to this computer for 3 months. Please, she's never been like made out to be some kind of like genius. She's not a mentalist, right?
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too is I don't know, like and this is just my own personal observation from, just years of being in different fandoms where you have characters like Camille who I mean, I compare to Cersei. She's like a Cersei Lannister type character. Actually, no, Tywin Lannister, probably better descriptor here. But she's really cunning, willing to play both sides, willing to lie, to meet her objectives, right? Because we didn't know why she was being a little bit helpful towards Jules when she hit her
Yeah.
and things like that, right? Because she shouldn't have. It should have been a thing that she did, but she did. But something I've noticed is characters like Camille really make people's heads explode. And what I mean by that is we have a problem, I think, with acknowledging characters who live in a gray area. Because on one hand, if you are rooting for the people of the silo, you're rooting for Camille because we saw what happened with Silo 17. We're starting to get the understanding that like this overseer has very tight control on the silo. And if Juliet is not stopped, if Juliet is able to do what she wants to do or what she set out to do, it's going to be a problem for these people.
Everybody's
They're all
dead.
going to die. Right. And so Camille, even though, she is being deceptive, and I'm not like, and this is where I'm going with this, she's not a good person. But if you want the silo to survive, you're probably on her side.
Well, I
And
mean,
I
it was the
think
same
that
way with
scares people.
Bernard. It was the same way with Bernard
Mhm.
because I mean, he's portrayed as this evil villain who's manipulating everybody. He's hiding everything. He's doing all these nefarious things, but in the end, he's trying to protect everybody. He's trying to keep everybody
Mhm.
alive. So it's like this dilemma: do you side with the villain so that everybody can live, or do you side with the rebels so that they can figure out what's going on and stop being oppressed and have freedom
And
and
really, if you wanna get down to it, like, he's only the villain. Like, people like Bernard and Camille are only the villain in Juliet's story.
yeah,
Or, I guess you could also include the outsiders in this now, right? Like, they're only the villains in the revolutionary story. They're not the villains in the we said 9,912 people who live in the silo. What, probably 9,900 of them, they're not the villain to those 9,900 people.
yeah.
It's the few who have revolted, right?
I mean,
And
they
I think
probably don't even think about him, right?
Right, and I think that's an important thing to think about with revolutionaries, rebellions, things like that. Even when they're successful, just as what we're seeing here with how this narrative is being delivered, very rarely are they being fought by the entire population. These are usually the fights of, a small group against another small group. And whoever wins it becomes the group that's in charge. And so
And they get to
to
tell
kind
all
of
the stories.
Right, they get to control the narrative. They get to tell you which memories are right. Just again, exactly what we're seeing happen with this rebellion right now in terms of, oh, it was bloodless, no one was meant to die, only one person died. Okay, so why are we stacking bodies?
Yeah.
Like what's going on with that? And so it's just really interesting to see how the show is kind of playing with one, like who is the villain really here? Because I don't think Juliet's a villain. I'm not saying that, and I don't want anyone to take it that way. I don't think the outsiders are villains, but I think it is complex politics, is what I'm saying. Complex politics makes audiences nervous because we want to see the villain, we want to see the good guy, and we want the good guy to win. And you have to kind of start to question Juliet and the outsiders, are these the good guys? I mean, because they might be in your story, but in the story of let's be generous and say 8,500 other people in the silo, probably not.
I mean, for me personally, I don't think that's why I don't like Camille, the fact that she's a great character. I love great characters, but for me it's more just she just comes across as like a Mary Sue. You know, they give her everything. She does everything. She's the one who does this and this and this and I get that that's what the algorithm or the overseer is saying that it likes about her and that's why it chose her, but I just get irritated when they make this one character do everything, and it's just like, I mean, they didn't even do that with Juliet. I mean,
Mhm.
and I don't really find Camille to be that interesting of a person at her core, and then to have her just doing all these things, it just felt like they're just having her dip her fingers in every single pot. You know, I just that's what irritates me.
No, I think that's a very fair point. But when you were, sort of making that point about why you don't like Camille, I will say, because you mentioned last week, I believe, that Camille's not really in the books. Like, this is not someone who exists in that world.
Mm-mm.
Um, but I think it's interesting to see these two women playing off of each other as opposed to sort of it being Robert Sims and Juliet playing off of each other. I think it does add a layer of dynamic here, but I understand what you're saying in terms of like, why is it that she's so important and that she's so good and she has her hands in every single pot? And is it simply because she's a liar, or is it what we're seeing in this episode, which is she's willing to do things that this is a crime against humanity. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
You go into the mines, you lock the doors behind these people, and start throwing rat poison to kill people to go after someone. Like you're trying to catch one person and you're going to kill everyone in the mines potentially. Like that's a cost you're willing to take. That's not just the skill of a liar. That's the I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but that's like I was going to say the skill of someone who is a sociopath. Like they don't care. They're willing to make those quote unquote hard decisions. She doesn't care about human life.
And I feel
She
like
cares about the silo.
it's important to note too that she doesn't have confirmation that Lucas is in there. She just thinks he's in there, and yet she's still taking this extreme step, right? And I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if it's what you're saying, and she intended to kill everybody, or if she was just trying to flush everybody out. Um, because I mean, it kind of seems like it could just be the flushing thing, just because only Orla died. So, but
Could
they did
be. But
maim a lot of people, right? They got a lot of people sick because we see what happens to Juliet. She's in the hospital. So,
right, but I mean it's a calculation. It's cost benefit analysis is what it is.
yeah.
Because to do that, you have to be willing to accept the cost, right? That the cost or sorry, that the benefit of catching this one person, of flushing this one guy out is worth the cost of potentially killing everyone in those mines because this is toxic substance, right? And they even ask, like when she's issuing the order, right? She even asks, like, well, should we let people know we're coming,
Yeah. And she's like,
right?
no.
Right. Why would we? Because we need to flush someone out. To me, locking the doors behind them, if that's what really happened, which again, that was my take on it, so it might not be what happened.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about who locked the doors and why. That's a strong indicator of I'm just going to be blunt. We don't give a shit who dies here.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have that kind of leadership, right? And we see this in real world politics all the time. When you see that leadership, that type of leadership, it is someone who it's not someone who they're just simply a good liar. It's someone who's willing to just do whatever to adhere to this governing structure and to keep that in power. It's kind of like what we were just saying with not what we were just saying, but the callback to Helen and Daniel, right? In terms of him saying, "Oh, I don't answer to the interests of those people or the elite," or however he said that. You want the people, if you're the elite, that governing elite, you want the person in charge who's like Camille and Bernard because they're going to do whatever it is that needs to be done to adhere to the governing structure.
You know what actually the locking the doors thing makes me think of? It just
Hmm.
came to me. It's from that scene in Titanic when they lock the below decks people downstairs,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's another good example, right? We want to protect the interests of the elite, so we lock the gates so that the poor people can't come up and they a lot of them die.
And they're
Like, we're
literally
willing
down
to
there with the
risk it.
rats.
Right, and so, like, we're willing to risk the lives of this certain group of people to achieve the aims of the elite, or the ruling class in this case.
Yeah. All right, so that's the end of the episode. So we have this list of pending scenes that were seen in the trailer, and I think the only one that we can knock off is Jules going down that rope down the
Mhm.
gap. So we didn't get to see a whole lot more from what we saw in the trailer. So that is what we have to look forward to. Other topics. What have we been watching? I finished season 6 of FBI, so I'm on the final season. And then I watched Jurassic Park today in honor of Sam Neill, who passed away earlier this week.
And I kinda joined. I'm traveling. It's been a heavy couple weeks for me with travel and other events. So I kinda joined the Jurassic Park watch, for a little bit there. And also, I just wanna say, like, I know we talk about Jurassic Park because, like, hello, we're obviously, like, sci-fi fantasy nerds, but, my favorite Sam Neill movie was actually The Piano.
I was scared you were going to say Event Horizon because I was just
As we
talking.
learned last weekend.
I, I was just talking to Expanse last weekend that that's the scariest movie I've ever seen. That's the only movie that has ever made me not able to sleep for an entire night. I would and Sam Neill was in that one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, he was in The Piano, and, I don't think he played a very good guy in that movie, but, like, that's one of my movies that I really like and
Mm.
enjoy. But in terms of, what I've been watching, not too much in the last few weeks. I haven't had, space really for a lot of watching this summer. But I did start watching Widow's Bay today because I know,
Oh,
Crystal,
okay.
you are a big fan of Widow's Bay. I'm only one episode in, and I mean, I started it a while back, like when it was actually airing, but for some reason I was having a hard time focusing, which has
Hmm.
just been my summer issue altogether anyway. But I was having a hard time focusing in on it. So I would get to like episode 3 and be like, who are these people? What is happening? But I started it today, first episode. Actually paid attention, found some really funny things in it. Also, Stephen Root, he's famous for being in Office Space, that movie in the early 2000s, where
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
stapler guy, like, don't touch my stapler. In Barry, I loved him in Barry. He does an episode of Fringe. He's in a really, really powerful, emotionally powerful episode of Fringe, is in that show. And I was like, oh, he's here. So this has got to be good.
Oh, that's the memory one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's a memory one. Really on topic with what we're talking about. But I also, in the coming week, look forward to starting Ride or Die, the new show
Oh, on Prime. Yeah, yeah.
with Octavia Spencer and Hannah Waddingham. Really want to catch that. It looks really good. Also, new season of King of the Hill drops the same day this episode drops on the 20th. So I'll be checking that out. And also, given my issues over the summer with Focus, I have a whole season of Criminal Minds and X-Men 97. The whole season of that's not out yet, but I have a whole season of those two shows to binge. So I've got a lot to watch, Crystal. And I wanted to ask if you knew that Project Hail Mary is now on Amazon Prime.
Oh, really?
It is. I saw it today when I was making sure I got Ride or Die on my list, on
I
my
mean,
lineup.
you've
But
seen my shirt. I have a Dr. Gray shirt that says the shirt that he wears that says I had potential.
yeah, so I know you love that movie. I actually haven't watched it yet. I bought it on sale, but I haven't watched it yet. Living on the edge. But I just wanted to highlight that it's on Amazon Prime now.
It was really good. I liked it. And actually, I took my youngest one to go see it too, and it was a pretty long movie. I think it was like 3 hours, and I was actually surprised that he actually paid attention the whole time. So
Yeah, when something's good, I can pay attention for a long time. I can
yeah.
devote my 2.5, 3 hours to it.
Bit of self promo. Wires from the Deep is brought to you by Pico's House, which offers a comprehensive slate of services for fiction authors. You can visit www.picoshouse.com for details. If you're enjoying the interaction between me and Neoshia and happen to watch police procedurals, you can check us out on our other podcast, Romcom Detectives, Castle Unit, and I co-host that show with two other people to cover Lucifer and The Mentalist. You can check that out at romcomdetectives.com. Thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of Wires from the Deep. If you're enjoying our podcast, be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a comment and let us know your thoughts in our discussion. Join conversations about the show on the Silo Series subreddit and the Down Deep Discord, where you can participate in live chats and watch parties when new episodes drop. And I just restarted our Silo quiz thing this week, so if you want to come and join, it's
Mm.
like a speed quiz focused only on the episode, and whoever can click the fastest on the correct answer, you get the most points, you win. And there's no prizes. I just give like braggy rights.
Yeah, and I'm like already traumatized by your quizzes. So best of luck, everyone.
But yeah, if you want to contact me and Neoshia, you can leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos, or you can email us at crystal@thedowndeep.net. Tune in next week as we break down episode 4. Whatever you do, don't go home. Bye.
Bye, everyone.